Stop recording in progress. All right, it's 11 o'clock. Hiya, everyone. Thanks for coming. We've got one of our online regional chats, and I'll just be introducing everyone. But I just want to welcome you all. Thanks for coming. I know you're really busy, and hopefully this is well worth your time. So my name's Gemma Robbins. I'm the network coordinator at Regional Arts WA, and I'm coming from Whadjuk Noongar country. So before we begin, I just want to acknowledge the country on behalf of Regional Arts WA by saying Regional Arts WA honours and respects the traditional custodians on the land in which we gather, operate, acknowledging their enduring connection to country, culture, and spirituality. We recognise the resilience and strength of the First Nations peoples, their rich culture heritage, and the ongoing importance of their knowledge and practices. We are committed to fostering cultural equity and understanding with First Nations people across WA. So today we've got a regional online chat, and we've got back with us today Jill Brown. So Jill Brown comes from the Department of Local Government, Sports and Cultural Industries, or as you guys may know, Department of Culture and the Arts. And Jill is one of the project officers there focusing on the RACET programs. We've also got in the virtual room Carla Steele, who is our investment coordinator and manages all our federal grant programs, which she'll be talking about. We've also got one of our project officers, Megan Lemon, but prefers Lemon, who will be also chatting to you a little bit about some of our programs. I also want to acknowledge that we've got Erin Shepherd here, and Erin is doing her WAPA secondment with us at Regional Arts WA, so that's fantastic. So a little bit of housekeeping. Let me look at my notes for this one. If you can't hear us, there is a function on on Zoom, I should say, that gives you the live captions. So if anyone needs that, just write in the chat and I can send through those instructions. We are recording this session because it will be on our website. If you need to refer back or send it to your local networks. What else do I need to say? Any questions? Obviously, please put them in the chat. We'll have some question time after each of our guests have spoke. But if there's anything or you don't feel comfortable, sorry, I'm just letting someone know, saying it out loud or putting that virtual hand up, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure that that's covered as well. So I'll stop talking because we've got lots to go through in the next hour. And I am going to pass on to Jill Brown to talk through the arts activities in Regional Communities program. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Gemma. Is my microphone on? Great.
Yes.
Nice to see you all. Thanks to Regional Arts WA team for having us along. And I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on, Noongar Butja, that we're here today. And I know you're all coming from all around the country. And as well, just sort of acknowledging and paying respect to their amazing sort of history of storytelling and art making from the elders and through to the new kind of leaders coming through, the young leaders coming through in the future. Okay, so today I'm going to share my screen and I'm talking to you today about a specific funding available through Culture and the Arts, DLGSC. But first I'm going to share my screen and do this. So bear with me. We were talking before, Gemma and I, about how we haven't used Zoom for a while. So, okay, hopefully everyone can see that. I'd flicked through, so I'm just going to get back to the beginning. Yeah, so I'm work here as the project officer on the Regional Arts and Cultural Investment team. So, and I'm going to be talking about arts activities in regional communities funding program. In terms of just a bit of a context about Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, DLGSC, there's a whole heap of different divisions in this government department. We've got Local Government, Office for Multicultural Interest, Child Safeguarding Implementation Team, Sport and Rec, Racing, Gaming and Liquor, Regulatory Reform, and then we've got Culture and the Arts, our team. So it's really interesting sort of working with a big mix of different kind of interest areas, but sharing the same vision and mission. In terms of our funding program, we have, arts projects for organisations, arts projects for individuals and groups. We have connection to country. We have partnership acceptance, learning, sharing. We have short notice activity, contemporary music. So we have a lot of those funding programs. I'm not going to talk about those today. I will say, though, if you're interested in any of those, we'll very happily come back if Roa invites us to talk about some of those other funding programs. The arts projects for organisations funding and for individuals and groups is open 3 times a year. So there are opportunities 3 times a year to apply for that, but the one I'm talking about today is only open once a year. Hence, it's a really good opportunity to find out about it now. And in terms of, people having limited time and resources, targeting your funding requests and making sure that they sort of, you make use of funding rounds and times that are best suit, when they're opening, when your project's starting, and which funding rounds are available at which time. So as I said, I work for on the Regional Arts and Cultural Investment Program, which we call RACIP. There's lots of acronyms at state government I found since I started here, and I have come from the not-for-profit arts sector and spent many years working in different arts organisations. So I'm getting used to the acronyms. I've been here for 3 years now. But the RACIP is the Regional Arts and Cultural Investment Program, and then we also have the Regional Exhibition and Touring Boost, which my colleague Hannah works on, and they are both administered through DLGSC and supported by the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. And they have quite specific sort of outcomes for regional WA. They're all about supporting the development of arts, culture and creative industries in regional WA. So as well as the grants, we partner with the below organisations I've got listed here: Archwell, Circuit West, Art on the Move, Art Gallery of WA, and of course Regional Arts WA. They're our key service. Those organisations are our service delivery partners. So you can apply for lots of for all the funding programs, but then these programs are specifically really just all about supporting arts in regional WA. The Arts Activities in Regional Communities program is for projects that support participation in, access to and creation of arts and culture in regional WA. So the kind of objectives that your project would align with if you're going for this funding are listed on the screen. So, and this is all available on our guidelines, but obviously when you're applying for funding, the objectives are the key thing to be looking at in terms of whether or not this project is aligning with this funding, whether or not there's another funding program that you should be going to. For arts activities in regional communities, the objectives are increasing access to or participation in arts and culture in regional WA, providing employment opportunities, skills development and career pathways for regional Western Australian artists and arts workers, encouraging the development of regional creative and cultural industries, including cultural tourism, supporting community-led activities and creative developments, and contributing to social inclusion, wellbeing, cohesion and vibrancy in regional WA communities. There are 2 categories in this funding program, and while I'm looking at the PowerPoint presentation, I can't see your faces, so I'll sort of have a little break at the end of this section about the categories if you like, if anyone has any burning questions. Otherwise, what we thought we'd do is just wait to the end of the session and ask all the questions then. However, if there's something really burning, I can flick back to the other screen, so just let me know. But the creative development category for arts activities in regional communities is all about supporting activities, creative developments or activities in regional WA, of course. You could get funding for things like workshops, festivals, the development of new creative works, presentations of creative works, as long as the projects are, showing that they're, by the local community for the local community. They involve, highly skilled practicing artists and cultural workers. And they're really just about creating art in regional WA. And then we have the creative and cultural planning category, which is specifically for regional local governments to apply for. So I should flick back actually. In terms of who can apply for the creative development category, that's, artists, individuals, organisations, groups, local government authorities. But with the creative and cultural planning category, this is specifically for regional local governments. It's so that they can get some funding to develop new or revised creative and cultural plans, or they can go towards money, towards funding to support the community consultation processes that are in community engagement processes involved in the development of those plans. And with this funding category, where it's shown to be collaborations between either neighbouring shires or, a group application, or applications involving the local government, the local development commission, they're really highly regarded. Obviously, each community is different, and some sort of shires work, the way they're set up, that it wouldn't make sense to sort of do a development, creative and cultural plan without incorporating, neighbouring shires. So it just depends, obviously, on the needs of your community and your local area, but that is sort of looked at as highly favourable. Okay, so for creative projects, you can apply for up to 60,000, and for creative and cultural planning, you can apply for up to 50,000. In terms of your request, it's about basing it according to the scale and scope of the project, the depth of engagement and the time needed to develop the project, and the employment opportunities for regional artists. With this funding, and with most of the funding available through Culture and the Arts at DLGSC, you can request up to 80% of your total project cost, and you must demonstrate at least 20% income. However, this can be in-kind income. It's very strange not seeing your faces the way I've got it set up. I can just see the screen. So I'm going to flick back and just check in with everyone that you're all okay at the moment. No burning questions?
You're going well, Jill. Everyone seems engaged.
I'll just keep back.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I do have a question. It's Ronnie. I'm the manager at Yamatji Art in Geraldton.
Hello.
If I actually see a need under the creative cultural regional bucket, but I can't get the local government to make an application, how do I go around that?
I think, talk as well to the Development Commission in your area, and they can, and also it might be that they might be able to help with some of that relationship building, or sort of like, because sometimes it might be about the resources in the local government in terms of people's time. Everyone's so busy. Perhaps they could assist that process of facilitating. They might also be able to kind of do some of that connecting up work with neighbouring local government authorities, who then might be able to take the lead, in terms of it, and it could still incorporate you. So that could be a way that you could get around it. Shall I go back to the presentation for now? All right, I'll head back and we'll do more questions. So we've covered the two categories. We've covered how much you can apply for, what you can't apply for, and this kind of as well is fairly standard across a lot of our funding. You can't apply for, activities, or actually I'll read it from this list. So for this funding, you can't apply the activities that don't involve or benefit regional WA artists, creators or cultural workers or communities, can't apply for this funding, obviously, because of the objectives of the funding. Can't apply for international travel, the purchase of capital equipment above 3,000. Now, in other funding programs, you can't apply for any capital equipment here because the nature of engaging with some communities, if it's really shown that you have to have something for the project to happen, especially for those projects which are more about the social cohesion and wellbeing, or really about engaging with people from diverse backgrounds, then, there can be a case for that. You can't apply for capital works such as construction, etc., activities already funded by the department through any of our other funding programs, activities related to radio, broadcasting, film or television or digital games development, for the display, restoration or conservation of cultural or historical material, for fundraising, competitions, prizes or trophies, for the work of other state and Commonwealth government departments, for activity that is will be academically assessed, or any school curriculum-based activity, and for any ongoing staffing or operational costs. There's more in the guidelines, but I just wanted to sort of highlight some of those things that sort of come up sometimes in our questions. Okay. So this funding is opening on the 27th of August. It's only open once a year. And there's a draft review process available. So you can apply, you can submit a draft review before this time, but you can submit a draft review by the 19th of September. And then we sort of go through a process and we can provide you with feedback. We try and do it, you know, within a week so you can sort of implement some of our suggestions. However, we will always be available to answer questions on the phone or to have phone meetings or, you know, provide any feedback by email as well. So that's just a formal process that we have. The applications close on the 3rd of October and it's for projects beginning from the 1st of January. So this is why it's great that we can talk to you about this funding at the same time as the RAF fund project funding, because they're both for activities that are happening from the 1st of January. And of course, they've got quite a lot of, you know, similarities in terms of the objectives. There are quite a couple that align quite strongly. Carla and I were chatting about it yesterday in terms of like employment and capacity, professional development opportunities for regional artists and, you know, participation and access to the arts in regional WA. So it can be by hopefully like having a look at the couple of funding opportunities, you might think, well, we have a funding program but we want to go to apply for arts activities for some elements of it. We want to apply to RAF for some other parts of it, or because one is state government and one is coming from the federal government, therefore you can apply to both sources for this. Or you might decide, I want to apply just for one because this one aligns more closely, or you could hedge your bets as well. I mean, there's a different amount, but this is something at least you've got the information. You can find out about it. You can chat with our team, Jess and myself at DLGSC, Culture and the Arts, and Carla and the team there about their funding as well. Now, in terms of how I feel like, I'm just going to quickly flick. I feel like I might have missed. No, I didn't. I think I deleted some screens. That's all good for time-wise. So in terms of how you can apply, I can see there's some people there who have applied a lot and know this. However, and this applies to all of the culture and the arts funding anyway, there are 4 components of the grant application. There are the core application questions. They're always available on the guidelines, so you can start sort of drafting an application before funding rounds open, because the questions that are on the guidelines are the questions that are on the application form when you go online. So, and it's always a good idea to draft your application anyway. You're working offline, you know, in a Word document. You need to be aware of the word limits when you're drafting it up, because if you copy paste when you go into the actual online form, you'll lose bits off the end if there's too many. And it does tell you how much in that. I've forgotten off the top of my head. So there's the application questions that you respond to. There are the project targets, and we have a few people get stuck on those, but basically there are a whole list of a page of kind of stats at the end, and you only fill out the ones that are relevant for your project. It includes things like the number of audiences, metro, regional, you know, online or whatever. You just do your best estimate in that, and where it's not relevant to your project, you just leave it blank. You can do notes in the section about what you mean with regard to your project targets, and what they're used for is if you are successful, then you can use it to report back on. It also, all of that data is also collated by the department so we can sort of capture what's happening in the West Australian arts and cultural sector. There's a financial information, which is obviously your budget. How are we going for time? Okay. And it's really important with this that you include financial notes. It's just, one, it helps you kind of have an exploration of your, you know, how you've arrived at your costs and a sort of breakdown, and it will really make a big difference when the panel is assessing your application. So I would always recommend putting in good, clear financial notes. And then there's a support material, which I will talk to you about. I think if you haven't applied for funding through Culture and the Arts before, it's an online form. There's an online team of people can help you with sort of questions if you're having technical issues. And it's fairly, I think it's quite a good online form. I feel like it's really user-friendly, but other people might not think that, but I'm hoping that they do and that there is that support if you need some questions. You just need to register. There was something I was going to say about that, but I can't remember what it was now. Oh, you can keep working on it, so you can go in and out of it as needed, so your work is saved and you don't have to do it all in one go. And when you're applying for our funding, just be sure to really refer to the guidelines for the funding program that you're applying for. And your questions, you're answering the questions. They're all pretty much the same questions across most of the funding programs. They're asking what are you doing? The first question across most of our programs are, what are you doing? That's not the who, where are you doing it? Who is doing what art form? What are you doing? There's always the how, asking you to step out the timeline. There's the who, who the key artists are involved in their roles, what some of the outcomes are going to be and how you evaluate them. So whenever you're answering those questions, you're sort of thinking about it with regard to the objectives of the funding as well. For the arts activities in regional communities, we have some mandatory support material. And this is just encouraging people to sort of make sure they include this information. We want to have biographies or profiles of the key personnel involved in the project, or, if it's about an organisation, a sort of overview of that organisation. This is so that the panel can see, that the people involved, the key personnel, and the organisations have the skills, the background, the capacity to meet the project outcomes that they say they're going to meet. And always, by making sure you put that information in the application form, it means that everyone on the panel gets to read it. Don't assume that, people on the panel know who you are and know the key personnel. It's got to be in your application form. Confirmation of support is really important. That includes letters of support from from any organisations you're collaborating with, from the target community, the target community's participants, partners, those sorts of things. I think we talk a little bit later about, making sure that support material is relevant, that it shows that it's written by the people as well, not sort of a copy-pasted letter of support, and that it's up to date. When you're applying through the creative projects category, you need to include material that shows your creative capacity or skills. So materials that are relevant to the project. So previous examples of work, so if you've got the projects involving, a couple of key visual artists, then, including some images of their work that they've done or some video to show something that they've done. It's really important so that the panel can sort of assess the level of skill again, and it also provides a picture of what you're intending to do. Now, for the creative and cultural planning category, you need to include an excerpt of the relevant section of your strategic community plan. So that might be that you include the section that's related to what you're intending to do to your creative and cultural planning. We can talk more if any shires are intending to put an application in. And with all of this, we encourage you to give us a call later at some point anyway, and we can talk you through your application and provide you with feedback. Now, all funding also requires a regional grant funding allocation form. This is a mandatory form that you just download from our guidelines, and it's not included in your support material limits, and it just enables you to show of the money that you're getting through this funding, you're intending to get through this funding, what regions are you spending in it. And it's, if your project's just a very straightforward project happening in your town, then you can say all of the money's going into the town. But if, for example, you're using working with an organisation in Perth and some of those people are getting some fees, and really the fees, you would show that amount going to the metro area and this amount going to the this particular region. So that's just there so we can see where the funds are going towards. And yeah, that's a general overview about that. Support material. Actually, I'm just going to check in with everyone. How's everyone going so far? And I'm where it's 11:25, so I'm going to try and whiz through the end. Are there any questions about those things that I've just said? Okay, I'm going to flick back and just, yeah.
Yeah, we do have Ronnie.
Yeah, sorry, I do have a question. In terms of the eligibility, I've forgotten how many, this is for the DLGSC grants. What's the maximum applications per year? Is it per calendar year or per financial year?
Well, for this funding, you can put in one funding round, one application per category per year. This isn't like, yeah, because the arts projects for organisations and funding, you can only apply twice in a financial year for theirs, but this is separate. The RACIP, Regional Arts and Cultural Investment Program, they're not part of those limits. You can also apply for this. It doesn't matter whether you've applied for arts projects for organisations or individuals or groups. But for this funding program, it only runs once a year and you can only put in one application per category per year. So the support material limits have changed a little bit. I don't know when the last time you applied, any of you through Culture and the Arts, DLGSC, but we have support material limits for each of the types of support material that you upload on the online grants portal when you're doing your application. So with audio and video, it's a maximum of 12 minutes across 4 links, and it needs to be uploaded to file streaming sites like Vimeo, YouTube, Bandcamp, or SoundCloud. Don't use Spotify, and it needs to be a file streaming site that doesn't need a login, a special login to access. With all of these limits, you're not going to be made ineligible if you are over those limits, but they're there because the panel have lots of applications to read. They have only so much time, and out of fairness, these limits are set in place so that you can be really strategic with the support material that you submit with your application, make sure it's relevant, up to date, good quality, and the panel isn't obliged to read beyond the limits. So you're not ineligible, but they'd only need to listen of you, up to 12 minutes, for example. They may do more, but out of fairness, there's this sort of standardised limits for each. Text is 20 A4 pages in PDF or Word format. I would really encourage people, where possible, if you have the capacity, to put it all as one document and upload it, because then the panel, they just downloading one piece of support material and they can see it all in one go. And there's a little description when you're uploading it on the online portal where you can say you could list what's in that support material, like letters of support from so-and-so, and you can list it all there. So it will really helps with the readability of your application if you don't submit lots of little bits of support material that need to be downloaded separately. The text, make sure that text is legible. It has to be PDF or Word format. So web links, you can't sort of submit a page with a link to a Facebook page or something that's not, we basically get back to you and say you need to sort of submit this in a different format. And then images, up to 10 images, again, PDF or Word, or 10 image files. If you can get them all onto one file and upload them that way, if you have the capacity, that does make it a bit easier for the panel to read it. And in terms of how they're assessed, okay, so it's 11:30. I'll just do like another minute or so and then I'll finish. All of our applications at Culture and the Arts DLGSC are assessed against these 4 criteria: quality, reach, good planning, financial responsibility. I've written there some of the ways that the panel might be able to ascertain this, obviously through your application form, how you answer the questions, through the project targets, through your financial, information, like the budget notes and the budget and the quotes attached. But in terms of quality, this is where, by demonstrating the skills and expertise of the key personnel and previous work is one way that, this can be demonstrated in your application through that support material. Reach can be demonstrated by marketing or community engagement plans, or by showing audiences, or by the impact of the activity on your community and some of those outcomes. When you're thinking about something like the arts activities in regional communities, noting it's, one of the objectives is about wellbeing and social cohesion, and it's about employment and development opportunities for regional artists, the reach is going to be looking at, those kinds of things, what impact your project's having in relation to that kind of reach. So reach can be demonstrated in different ways. Obviously, a festival, that's going to be showing lots of numbers, and that's also relevant for reach too. So it depends on the nature of your project. Good planning can be demonstrated by realistic timelines and written confirmations, and showing that everything's sort of booked in place. Financial responsibility, as I said, by budget notes, realistic budgets, and quotes. And some tips for applying: obviously read the guidelines, ensure your project aligns with the objectives of that funding program. Call and speak to us at, please, we're always really happy to hear from everyone. It's a really lovely team of project officers and at Culture and the Arts, so please do get in touch with any questions. When you're answering the application questions, don't get sidetracked. I always say, it should just be really direct and to the point. I always say to people, I think if you've written the answer to your first question in most of the application forms, it's a summary of the project. So in that, you should be able to summarise, what you're doing, who's doing it, where and when in that first question. And I'd say if you kind of get someone to read your application who doesn't know anything about it, and then ask them to tell you about your project, and if it sounds like they understand really well what you're doing, then you've probably written in a way that is easily understood. Make sure when you're doing your responding to your questions, think about the criteria that are being used to assess it, the quality, the reach, the good planning, the financial responsibility, and get the person reading the application form really excited about your project. Show them that it's a timely project, it needs to happen, it's important, for your community. Avoid jargon, be very plain in your description of what you're doing and to the point. Use current, high-quality, relevant support material. Get your application in early. We do have people sort of submitting it, it closes always at 4 p.m. and we get people submitting at 3:45, and, then there's a panic. And so just start working online, get your stuff in the system early, and even if there's something that you need to upload later or some changes, it's very easy to go online and do that. Keep working in your draft while you're waiting for feedback on your draft review. And just, note that it is a competitive, funding rounds are competitive. They are assessed, though, by your peers, which I think is a really great sort of process in the sense that, the arts community is assessing the arts applications. And if you're not successful, you can get feedback and seek advice about, applying again potentially if that's something you want to do. Okay, and then obviously we're here to help with any questions that you have. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Jill. There is a couple of questions.
Okay.
Before I pass on to the Regional Arts WA team, we've got, and Kate, sorry, I just saw your captions comment here. So I will also write how to do captions because I don't know if it's working can everyone, here we go, show captions. Live transcript is on, so that should be on now. Can everyone see those captions? Can anyone see those captions? No. Okay, so quickly, for those who would like captions, there's 3 dots on your Zoom. Press those 3. Oh, no, beg your pardon. Right next to the 3 dots there's the captions, CC. So you can put those on your own screen. I thought they were sharing for everyone, but just individualized. Kate, if that doesn't work, just let me know in the chat and I'll do some screenshots. So Sarah Hinton, She has said, if an organisation has Tourism WA funding for a festival, can we still apply for this creative component of the festival, i.e. creation of public art installation or development of new performances, music that's part of the program?
Yes.
Great. And there's just for
As
one.
long as those funds, that component hasn't been covered already by another cost, but if you're just coming in for, a specific component of the festival, then that's fine. And we could, if you think, it might be a bit like, I need to check this, you can just send it, we can talk later about it. But yes, in theory, that's fine.
Right. Before I hand over, now that that's fresh in your mind, and Jill, thanks for the overview on those programs. It's only open once a year, so if it's a fit, I think everyone should at least have a look at it. Any other questions that anyone wants to shout out before we hand over to Carla Steele? Oh, similar question. On Playing WA grant, can the local government apply for funding for the presenter fee portion?
For Playing WA, that's really about the producers who are sort of touring their show to apply for their tour, because they're touring to lots of different locations, Tara, and that's Tara from ZAP, is it? And we're actually going to be presenting about Playing WA at Showcase next week, so I don't know if you're going to be there. That's specifically just about performing arts, getting money for performing arts. So, yeah.
For this one, it's more that, so the application for the Playing WA grant has already been successful. And one of the presenters is having a problem coming up with the fee that they were expecting to get from one source. So I was wondering if it was possible for us to help support them by basically finding other avenues for them. So would this be an avenue that they could apply for a grant to cover their presenter fee of the tour that is occurring?
It wouldn't be a strong competitive application, because I wouldn't think, and we can talk about it further, because it's, in terms of the objectives of this funding, and given that, so that it's really, you're talking about a venue that perhaps didn't get some money but you've got your money for your touring, to help with your touring. So I don't think it'd be a really strong one for this, noting the objectives of this funding, which is about community-led projects that are about participation inclusion. And I know that you do a lot of great kind of engagement workshops with communities while you're doing a tour, but that's sort of been funded really already through you applying for your touring, so, by the department. So it would be about sort of coming in again to fund another component of what you're already doing in a funding program that's not really designed for that, in terms of when you're looking at objectives. So I don't know if you'll be at the showcase next week, but we'll be there then, Jess and I, and Alison from here as well, who's sort of the Senior Project Officer for Arts Projects Funding. So, and we're also available for one-on-one chats there. So I don't know if you'll be at that one, but we can chat.
Yeah, I think we're there on Thursday or Friday, I think. So yeah, it'd be lovely to come and chat.
We'll be there on Thursday, so we can speak in more detail then.
And just a quick one from Vicky from Denmark. Can we apply for 3-year employment position within an existing arts organisation, or do the funds have to be expended in 12 months?
There's 18 months for this one from the start date. So you could, it's not like for an ongoing position. If there was a project that you were delivering and it had a position that was, like about tied to the delivery of a project, it's not for ongoing funding or ongoing, costs for an organisation. The funding that we have for that, if you're not sort of successful, there's obviously, we have our annual AOIP funding, annual organisation investment program, and then RAWA through Regional Arts and Cultural Investment Program has the RASI funding, which is 3 years. And then what we have available, if you don't have any of that kind of operational funding, is we have annual program funding available through the Arts Projects for organisations grant. That's a category of that grant that's obviously not available to anyone who's got AOIP funding. and things like that, but that can cover the costs of operations and staff salaries for a year as part of the annual program delivery.
Thanks, Jill. I will move on. We've got Carla Steele and Megan Lemon, and they're going to talk to you about Regional Arts Fund funding and some other funding that we have. I might just unpin you, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry to rush through this, guys. We've just got a lot to get through. So now I'm pinning Carla Steele, our investment coordinator, to talk some grants. And
thanks, Gemma. And thanks, Jill. That was a really great in-depth overview of the arts funding projects that you guys have. And I don't want to bombard you all with too much information because me and Lem are going to talk about 3 different grants that we have. So a lot of what Jill has said is the same for our projects. Information about support material and budgets and tips for writing grants is all very similar pretty much across grant writing in general and funding. Anyway, I'll just introduce myself again. I'm Carla. I'm the investment coordinator. So I manage the funding programs we have here. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see the right screen?
yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to talk about the, why is this not, whoops, gone too far. There we go. I'm going to talk about the Regional Arts Fund, which is an Australian government program that supports and promotes participation in and access to Australia's arts and culture in regional, remote and rural Australia, similar to the departments. We have 2 streams of funding through this federal fund. It's managed by Regional Arts Australia and it's administered in WA by us. There's one, the Regional Arts Fund streams out to every state and is run by the local regional peak body or organisation. So Regional Arts WA, we run the project grant and the quick response grant through RAF. There's quite a few of you here that I've already spoken to about Project Fund, and I think you'll be applying for our Project Fund. Both Project Fund and Quick Response are open to regionally based artists, arts workers, organisations, and it's to apply for professional development and creative arts projects. The RAF objectives are the same for both Project Fund and Quick Response. So they're listed here. And again, they're quite similar to the departments. Basically, these 5 are the criteria that you will be writing about and speaking to in your application. So each one, we've got impact, support and partnerships, reach, opportunity, and quality and viability. And in the application, you'll find that each one has checkpoints, and there's like 4 or 5 points that speak to each of the criteria, and you can select which ones fit your project best and speak about them. We suggest that you don't select them all unless you can strongly speak to every single one. For example, if we're talking about reach, which is about developing audiences and broadening community engagement, the points that you can talk to is having opportunities for community members or groups to participate in the arts, the geographical spread of the project, the development of audiences by extending their experiences, and the development of audiences by attracting new attendees. So that's not all of them, but you can pick one of them and speak about that to speak to that criteria, or you can pick multiple ones. And it kind of helps you develop your application and how you're going to respond to all the criteria. So like I said, that is for both Project Fund and Quick Response. So you need to be able to speak to those criteria in both if you're applying for both of them. So the first grant I'm going to talk about is Project Grant, because it's currently open now. It's closing in 2 weeks. So like I said, there's a few of you that have already applied. You might be able to smash out an application if this is the first you're hearing about it. However, generally we have 2 rounds a year. So if you feel this is the first time you're hearing about it and you feel like it's something you want to apply for, we do have another round opening next year in February that closes in March for projects starting after the 1st of July. So this round is for, as Jill said, projects starting after the 1st of January as well. So you can apply up to $30,000 for arts projects, professional development for artists and arts workers, and for community capacity building projects. Obviously, you must be based in the regions because we only service the regional WA, so you have to have an ABN registered to a regional address to be eligible for that. The things that you can apply for, artist fees, travel costs. You can apply for international travel with this one. So we do have quite a few people who have professional development opportunities in other countries that they'd like to attend, and you are able to apply for those costs. Materials, venue hire, equipment hire, insurance, administrative costs, and you can apply for purchasing assets up to $5,000, but you really need to be able to demonstrate that it's more cost effective to buy it than it is to hire it. I didn't do slides for what's ineligible, but it is very similar to the departments. There was a couple of things that were a bit different, but it's all in our guidelines, which are on the website. So you can, it's obviously the first thing you should do when you're applying for a grant is read the guidelines, not just skim them, but really read them in depth to make sure that you are eligible. What you want to apply for is an eligible cost, and those kind of things. So the other grant that we have is the Quick Response Grant, which is open all year round except January and December. So from February to November, you can apply for the Quick Response Grant. It opens on the first day of each month and it closes on the last day of each month. And very importantly, you have to note that the projects cannot start any earlier than 2 weeks from the closing date of the round. So no earlier than, I put 15th here, but it should have been 14th. No earlier than the 14th of the month after the round closes. So we've had quite a few applications come in where the applicant hasn't spoken to a project officer to determine their eligible timeframe, and it's fit in, their project starts, on the 4th of that month, which immediately knocks it out. And it's just really disheartening for us because we look at the applications and they've put all this work into it and it's not even eligible because it doesn't start at the right time frame. So please, before you start an application, call us and talk to us, and we can go through that to make sure that you're not wasting all your time and see if there's another avenue that you can pursue for your funding. Unfortunately, there are projects that just don't fit any time frame because they're such a quick turnaround, and we are constantly talking to Regional Arts Australia about that and keeping a log of all the projects that don't fit that timeline, and we're trying to get them to work towards finding a way that we can have a quick turnaround for those really important opportunities that come up that there just is nowhere to get funding for. So Quick Response, you can apply for up to $3,000 for individuals, up to $5,000 for organisations. And again, it's for professional development opportunities or small activity opportunities that have arisen at a short notice. So the other really important thing about Quick Response is that this project is to support an immediate need that's unable to be planned for or supported in other rounds. So one of the questions you have to answer is how it meets that criteria. And that's another place where often applicants fall short because they haven't been able to demonstrate that this really was a last minute thing that came up, and be able to back that up with letters of confirmation or letters of offer that have a date that say, yes, this was offered to me last month or 2 months ago, rather than just saying, oh yes, this just came up a month ago. You need to be able to back up everything you're saying in your application with your support material. We're kind of running out of time, so I don't want to go into detail about budgets and things like that, but I've got some sort of things to remember at the end. We do have some new funding as well. Does anyone have any questions at this point? We are going to have a little section at the end for questions as well. I can't see if there's hands up or anything, so I will continue. We have some new funding that's come through the department. So this is state government through the Department of Local Government, Sports and Cultural Industries. And this is through RASIP as well. So these are youth grants, and my lovely colleague Lemon is going to tell you about mainly the Next Gen Arts because it's open right now. There is another one that we'll just mention, but she's mainly going to talk about Next Gen because it's open currently. So I'm going to hand over to Lemon.
Thanks, Carla.
There she is.
Yes, Next Gen Arts is a new funding program designed for arts activities for young people aged 12 to 18 years old. And it might offer experiences like a school holiday program, workshops, masterclasses, community events, productions across any art form. And you can apply for up to $3,000, which will support the artist fees and travel costs, with all other costs being covered by the host organisation. So it might be like your materials or your venue hire. The round is currently open and it closes on the 5th of September with more rounds in 2025 and 2026. And this current round is for projects starting after the 1st of October. So if you've got any school holiday activities, ideas or workshops in mind, start thinking about that and get in contact with me about that.
Yeah, so this, for Next Gen, we have a couple more years of funding. So this will be open twice a year for the next 2 years. So something to keep in mind, we've kind of aligned the opening and closing dates with school holidays so that, as Lemon said, you can plan to have like school holiday workshops or things like that. This is kind of replacing our Y Culture grant that we used to have. However, with Y Culture, it would be a young person applying, designing the project and applying for the costs. However, with Next Gen, it's organisations that apply for the funding, and they can have the assistance of young people, but applicants need to be a local regional organisation. We also have another funding program called Next Level, which is closed for this year, but it's just something for you all to have in the back of your mind. Lemon, did you want to?
Yeah.
Talk about that one quickly.
So Next Level is a fellowship program that is designed for 18 to 26-year-olds to pursue their artistic dreams. Arts workers and artists, they can apply for $8,000, and that you tell us how you're going to use that $8,000 to pursue your artistic career. And that can run for a year.
So we're going to have, that will be opening up again next year. We're not sure when, but just something to keep in mind if you know of a young person in your community that you think might be, this might be a really good opportunity for them. Just keep your ears open for when that is going to open up next year and then the year after as well, I think. Is that right? Yep. So we've got 3 years of the youth funding, which is really exciting. So just, things to remember. As we said, read the guidelines, read them, and Jill said read them twice. Don't just skim over them, read them in great detail because you will find out a lot about whether you are eligible and if your project is going to fit this grant. You don't want to be changing your project to fit in with grant guidelines. You want to be finding the right grant to fit your project. Speak to the project officer before you start an application because, as I said, it's really frustrating when people put an application in and they haven't spoken and there's something that just makes it ineligible and you've wasted all your time doing that. Use plain English, be clear and concise in your answers. Everything that Jill said, I was like, yep, that's the same for us. Ours, we have peer assessors as well assessing, and they have a lot of applications to go through, and they just want to know straight up, clearly what you want to do, how you're going to do it, what your outcomes are going to be, and provide relevant support material. Basically, everything that you're saying in your application, you need to be able to back that up with your support material, letters of support, letters of offer, letters of confirmation, quotes for your budgets, CVs to demonstrate quality and viability of the people involved in your project and things like that. Make sure that your letters of support and offers are dated and signed, and they're PDFs. They're not like a Word document that doesn't have a date or a signature that doesn't look very legit. make sure your budget is balanced and that you provide quotes and notes. And we also have a document that we created called the Applicant Resource Guide, which is on our website. And it's the guidelines are very wordy. And then the Applicant Resource Guide has some pictures, and it's a bit more easy to understand and read, and it has tips and tricks, and that's for project fund and quick response. So that's a really good document to have a look at when you're writing your application, because it kind of helps you fill out bits and budgets, and it can answer a lot of the questions before you need to pick up the phone and ask us a question. We try to answer a lot of the questions in that. The important dates are project grant, as I said, it closes on August 16th. For projects after the 1st of January, we do have a draft review process as well. However, the deadline for that has passed. So unfortunately, if it's the first time you've heard about it, you've missed out this time, but it's a really good opportunity to take advantage of for next time to get some feedback. I still will be available to answer questions if you have questions or queries as well, though. So please pick up the phone if you need to. Quick response closes on the last day of each month for projects starting 2 weeks from that date to 12 weeks. And I forgot to mention that you can, if you're unsuccessful with quick response and your date still fits within that 2 to 12 week period, you can apply in the next round. So if it's not too close and you've applied for quick response, you've been unsuccessful, you can take on board the feedback from the assessors and rewrite your application and potentially be successful as long as it's still, within the time frame. And Next Gen, which closes on 5th of September for the projects starting after the 1st of October. And that is that, with 4 minutes to go.
Well done. Question time. Does anyone have any questions about any of the grant programs? Anything that's nagging, being in the back of your mind that's not?
I'll stop sharing.
Got a few more minutes if anyone has anything.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me, Gemma?
I can hear someone, but who is it?
It's Katie.
Hi, Katie. Oh,
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep, we can hear you.
I've lost my voice, that's all. With the Next Gen, does that have to be a standalone project, or can that be linked in with a bigger project?
You could link it in with a bigger project, but they need to be separate, like not the same component of the same project. So a separate component.
Yep. All right. And project starting 1st of October, but when do they have to finish?
You have a year to finish them.
Oh, okay, good. Yep. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Katie. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you, Jill and Carla and Lemon and everyone who attended. When you registered, we asked if you guys were Regional Arts WA members, and a lot of you said no. So what I want to do is send a link into our membership. It's free, and we are a not-for-profit membership-based organisation, so we reflect our members' needs. So I encourage you guys to sign up. After this, we will send you an email just with those key dates, Jill, Carla, and Lemon's contact details. So if you want to follow up with anything, you've got those directly. But I'd like to thank everyone and hope that everyone has a lovely day and that you can get those grants in time. I know it can be quite a lot, but you're doing well. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to end the session. See ya.